We resided in a house where things had always been kind of weird. Every single one of my friends and family, especially the women who are more accustomed to being on guard than my uncles or dad and are very out of touch with emotions, independently expressed that our house, particularly the part of the basement that was fully underground, felt wrong. There's a decent amount I could share, but anyway, here's the story. First, you need to know the layout, that's important. The house had the main floor over a basement that partially opened up to the outside on the backside of the house. I had a bedroom in the basement with a window facing the woods. We owned the 19 acres the house sat on. On the ground floor, there was a deck which stretched over where the basement opened to the backyard and woods. So from the basement, you exited the backyard under the deck. This deck was accessible outside from the ground, and you could access it from the inside of the house via the living room and primary bedroom. A lot of weird things happened, like the knocking. There were always knocking sounds on the basement glass doors and windows. My friends heard it too. We always felt like we were being watched. It was deeply unsettling, and the further you went into the basement, the more evil it felt. I know it sounds cliché to say evil, and maybe it was just the primal discomfort of being underground, but something really felt bad back there. The knocking felt intelligent. There were no trees or bushes near the house to cause it, and the knocking moved from window to window or glass door to glass door. While it did sometimes knock on one of the windows upstairs, because most of those windows were on the deck, it mostly stayed downstairs. It was always 3 to 5 knocks at a time. It felt like it was taunting me. It happened more when my parents were not home. They never heard the knocking, but my friends all did when we would be home alone. But fine, maybe this was a person with bad intentions. For a teenage girl, a human stalker. I don't really believe in the paranormal, actually. However, this experience is what I keep circling back to, and it really makes me doubt all the other weird things I've experienced too. I was downstairs in my room one night, the knocking was much worse this time. But there wasn't any reason why, the weather was normal and calm. The dog, feeling the weird vibes, was lying protectively on my legs and facing the doorway. He felt uncomfortable enough that he would go on patrol of the house occasionally, and he would bark and growl at the knocking. Suddenly, I hear big, heavy footsteps on the deck upstairs. It was so distinctive, I could even tell you that it was a man and that it sounded like heavy cowboy boots, heavy like the steel-toe kind. But, of course, you can't know for certain. Steel-toe cowboy boots are also not uncommon in this rural community in southwestern Missouri, Jasper, and Newton counties. My dog launched off me and raced upstairs, and I could hear him in front of the windows and glass deck, making sounds I've never heard him make. I thought it was just an intruder, so I was very glad that my big dog might scare him off. The thing is, though, I never heard the footsteps leave the deck. I call my mom after my dog calms down enough to come back to me, still on edge. I asked if I should call the police. What's the point if they take over an hour to arrive? I thought we'd call a neighbor to drive over and have a look around, but he didn't see anything and left. I opted to stay upstairs in my parents' bedroom again. Again, the bedroom had access to the deck via a glass door. The glass has a privacy film over it to blur the details. I'm sitting on the bed facing the door on my phone, and my dog is again lying protectively on my legs when he's not getting up to patrol the house. He's very on edge, and I'm starting to calm down when I hear him growl. It's not the typical growl I hear when, for example, a strange man comes over, a man I know, but the dog doesn't like. It was more primal. I look up, and what I see terrifies me. There's a face in the window, except it doesn't have a face. It's pressed up against the glass, and I can make out a white person-colored face, but I see no contours of any facial features. That's the thing that scared me most. Yes, there was a privacy-blurring film on the window, but I should have been able to make out light and shadow where there should be eyes or nose or a mouth, but there was none. It was short too. It didn't turn away, it very slowly backs away. I can't explain why, but I get the feeling that it wanted me to see it and only left once it knew I had. There was another experience I suffered in the house. This was when there was a young child living with me. At first, she had a room in the basement. The room was kind of midway through the basement. The half of the basement that opened up to the outside felt tolerable, but the further back you went, the worse the basement felt. I always chalked it up to the primal fear of being underground. So, this child's bedroom connected to the storm shelter and another bedroom that was deep underground. This child really fought sleep. I mean, kids fight sleep, but it got so bad we moved her to a bedroom upstairs because she would always complain about the shadows. I tried explaining to her the concept of what shadows are. We left night lights, but she was still so scared of the shadows. I've never known what she meant, and her early life was traumatic, so now she doesn't remember anything before, like, age 10. So, she's never been able to articulate her experience. It's hard for me to know whether it was normal 5-year-old stuff, like being scared of the dark, or if something was tormenting her. She lived with us because her life circumstances were not right, so it was also harder to tell what was what trauma, and what was 5-year-old stuff, and what was abnormal. She did get better when we moved her upstairs though. Another time, I was sleeping on the couch in the basement. There's a hallway behind where the couch is that goes into the deeper part of the basement. The hallway is a straight line with bedrooms on either side in the deep part of the basement before opening out to a wider space where the couch and living area were. I was laying on the couch, facing away from the hall, when I heard something fall in the back bedroom. I just feel something walk in the living area. It kind of pauses there behind me, and I feel paralyzed. I didn't see anything, but the vibes I got were again a tall, skinny white man with dark hair. I felt afraid, but not like it was going to hurt me. I started singing hymns, and I felt it leave. There was something else, but it isn't my story to tell and involved a vulnerable person. There's also a time that my friend and I went skinny dipping in my pool one night. We heard some strange things, and we all agreed it did not feel like an animal. It was too big and didn't move like an animal. We all watched the whole night, generally really uncomfortable. I do think we might have seen a camera in the woods, though, so it is possible that there were just people living out there. I heard people partying sometimes, but could never discern where exactly the sound was coming from. This is the thing, some of these things could be explained by physical phenomena or just a really strong electromagnetic field giving me the strange vibes. But the only thing that makes sense, that I can rationalize, for the faceless thing is that I also had a neighbor who turned out to have a thing for teenage girls. So maybe I just had a stalker. There was also a room in the back of the basement I never went in if I could help it. Nothing happened in there, I just never felt comfortable and hated it when I first moved in. Some friends and I were downstairs when we all heard a very strange sound like scratching on the wall. We'd felt strange the whole time but ignored it until this point. I even checked things out like ley lines or whatever, and the house isn't on one. The previous family who built the house were very Christian, so no occult activity. Sometimes I still doubt what I saw with the faceless face, because it was just so bizarre.